to put it in context, I've noticed a lot of the conversation when they talk about identity, especially black identity, it's always in contrast to whiteness. For me, my schooling was special because I grew up in Harlem before there was a large number of gentrification. Let's use plain language, right? So when Harlem was still pretty much a black community, so I went to school with nothing but black and brown kids. I had a school where I saw black and brown kids being everything. And that's interesting because quite often the depiction is only one way, right? Because if it's a school where mostly white kids, you get to see, oh, there's the jocks, the geeks, the drama. But I got to go to school with black and brown kids my entire educational career. So I got to see that black and brown people could be all of that, right? That the smartest kids in the school could be black. That the smartest kids in the school could be brown. That the athletes could be black. The quote-unquote bookworms or nerds or jerks, all of those things could be black people. So I learned at a very early age that you can be anything and be black. So the concept of black people being a monolith got erased from me very fast. Because I grew up and that's all I knew, right? I grew up because I like to say New York is one of the greatest segregated, integrated cities in the world. Because, to be honest, New York is an integrated city, but it's pretty segregated, right? That's the nature of when we talk honesty, right? When you go to Forest Hills, Queens, when you go to Flushing, Queens, you go to certain parts of Coney Island, you know the people that are going to be there, and that's fine. But we do live in a segregated society at a point in time. There used to be a point in time when you could ride the train and you knew what neighborhood you were in because you could look at the demographics of the people on that train. But more importantly, back to education, like I said, I grew up in a world where a time where every black person could be anything. And that was special for me from elementary school. I went to school in Harlem, and elementary schools in Harlem generally are named after famous black people, right? And sometimes it may not be the most famous black people. Like you have Frederick Douglass Academy that most people would know, and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Academy. But there's also the Crispus Attucks School. And you may not know who Crispus Attucks is. But if you went to that school, you went to his school, you learned who Crispus Attucks was. I went to Mahalia Jackson Middle School, Mahalia Jackson Public School, the elementary school. And Mahalia Jackson is one of the most famous gospel singers of all time. And she had a whole school named after her. So we learned about Mahalia Jackson and we learned about Blackness. My elementary school had a museum inside of it that other schools would come to strictly for black culture and black history. And the woman who curated it was a black woman, but she was the fairest skinned black woman I've ever seen. Right? She was very fair skinned. She could have easily passed. But she still bled and pushed blackness at the hardest she could. And that was the beautiful part. I got to see blackness in every shade and every style. I got to see blackness spoken Spanish. So the term Afro-Latino has always made sense to me because I've always known dark-skinned black folks. I've always known lighter-skinned folks who would just be considered more Latino but still had a cultural connection to blackness because this is a part of them as well. So I got to see blackness in every aspect. I never thought you could only be one thing and be black. And that was one of the best things about me, and that was an interesting thing I noticed about schooling for me. And especially when I look at the juxtaposition for other people. So many other people went to schools where they didn't have that, where they were the black person, or black people were very marginalized and it was just a certain group. Or if you went to school in a certain state, each individual group was there. So I got to see it kind of in a pure form, and that was always something I've always appreciated, especially getting older. I appreciate it now, hearing stories from other people about their educational experiences.